Hello and welcome back to my computer-aided design architectural drafting course. My name is Xander. I will be your instructor. And so, for those of you who didn't watch the previous video and would like to, you can click on my webcam depending on what device you're on, and it will automatically take you to the last video where I created this. I guess you could call it a structure, or just a little stud wall mounted onto a piece of plywood. So, in this lesson, for one, we are going to, or it's basically a recap, more or less. We're going to get into some advanced technique. Well, I shouldn't say advanced, but slightly more advanced technique. So, for one, we're going to, now this is going to be a little bit more tricky than what we did before. We're going to create a piece of plywood, and we're going to do this the slightly more difficult way. This is more so for getting to know the push-pull feature. So what we're going to do is create a line on our green axis. And what we're going to do with that line, is set it to 1/2 inch by typing into this box here. And what we're going to do now is create a rectangle, but we're not going to use the shape tool, only because this will make things a little more difficult. We will get to that after. So what we're going to do is create a 4-foot, 4 apostrophe line, and we're going to, on our blue axis, which is our vertical, we are going to create an 8-foot line. And now we have a preset for our rectangle, which we're going to take, and we are going to zoom in, and now we have our basis for our plywood. So now what we're going to do is flush it with our stud wall. As you can see, we're taking this push-pull tool here, and we are creating an endpoint. So, and then what we can do now with our push-pull tool is take it and flush it with our face here, which will create this weird dotted thing. And as you can see, if I turn this around here, it's gone. So now, you don't have to do this, I'm just doing this for the sake of realism. I'm turning this into OSB and 2x4-esque material. So, having that said, okay, so let's see. We have that all in place now. So there's one problem. It created this, which we can simply delete by right-clicking and clicking erase. So now this lesson is all about getting to know the push-pull tool, which is why I'm not particularly worried. So now, we are going to take our push-pull, or we are going to take a rectangle tool, and we are going to, as you can see, it's 2'8" by by about 5 inches. And that's close to what we want. We want 3 feet, comma, 6 inches. Now this created a face for the door, which we obviously do not want. So we are going to delete that. And now what we can do is take this and pull it downward to give or take 1 inch. And there's a reason for that, you'll see later. Now this, don't worry about this because you can just fill that right in. Like so. And so what you can do now is take a rectangle tool and what you can do, little trick, is create a from point. So we have our end point. That is so weird. Oh, there we go. So, as you can see, it is letting me drag. So it'll say from point. Now, okay, see, there's something I forgot to do. So, what we're going to do is invert this point to the other side. So we're going to create another from point, and then use that. I know this is not the most efficient way of zooming, but it is definitely by far the easiest for me anyway. It may differ for some of you. So we're going to create a point there, and boom. Now be careful of the difference between hide and erase, because hide will still have that line. Now the bottom we're not super worried about for this, so we can simply go ahead and ignore it. Again, this is just getting to know the tools and simply noticing some flaws, why they occur. So, I'm going to open this drop-down menu in Paint, and I'm going to switch to Stone. And for the hell of it, we're going to create Marble Step. Now, the Sketchup doesn't have the greatest textures. You can upload your own, which we may get to in another lesson. But anyway, there you have it. We have created a step and our outside wall. So now, what we can do here is take this 2x4 and be careful of your selection. You want to deselect all of this, including the face, because that will cause problems in the future. And notice how I am carefully monitoring all selected points when I do this. So now we will take this 2x4 and we are going to rotate it on a 90-degree angle from our green axis to our red axis, as you just saw. And what we're going to do is zoom in on this endpoint on the left and place it right there, flush with our other 2x4. So now what we can do is create an on-center 16-inch mark after I fulfill my OCD and repaint this. Beautiful. So now we are going to punch in 16 inches. Again, be careful of the difference between feet and inches. We're going to do a surface check, orbit, create a temporary mark. Now, here is a trick that I have. So what we're going to do is rotate this on a 90 degree, paint it, and then copy it again. So just for the sake of showing the difference, we're going to cut it and paste it again, which, as you can see, it updated the properties to what we actually want. So now we can create another stud, 16 on center. Now that happens, not to worry, we can just create another line at 16. As you can see, it didn't create my line because I forgot to hit enter. Simple mistake. Just create another line. Mark it. And we want this on our blue axis, obviously. Paste it on center. Beautiful. Now I'm going to speed through this part because you should all be familiar. So, now that we have that completed, what we're going to do is create a 4-foot by 8-foot piece of plywood, the same way we did this one. So what we're going to do is extend this to 1/2 inch, but not from there. We're going to factor in the material width here and put 1/2 inch here. And what that'll do, okay, so apologies for that. We had a little blip there. The speaker keeps seeming to the microphone keeps seeming to disconnect. I will hopefully get that fixed after I get a wired microphone. Anyway, moving on with our lesson here. So we're going to run this down our green axis at 8 feet, or sorry, 4 feet. Yeah, let's go with the 8 feet for the purpose of what we're doing here. So this is okay because we're not going to be making a complete structure. You'll understand why sooner or later. So now, as you can see, we have that at 4 feet. And we're going to create a rectangle based on these 2 points. And we are going to pull our rectangle right about there. So, I'm going to take this and paint it with OSB. And then we are going to create another piece of plywood, except we're only going to paint half of it. And there is a reason for that. Which we will get to in a little bit here. Or we'll get to that in another lesson. My apologies. Let's see. So on our red axis, we are going to create a 1/2 inch. Make another rectangle. And then we are going to pull it again. So again, this lesson is all about getting to know the tools. And this is what it's going to look like for maybe another lesson or two, and then we're going to get into some techniques, applications, etc. However, for the next lesson, we are going to leave this face blank. So, anywho, we'll get to that in the next lesson. And yeah, have a good one. And stay safe in this pandemic.